All right, so the type of study that we do in geometry and basically in high school geometry is called plane geometry, which is flat geometry. And so in flat geometry, we have a lot of different shapes and things, okay? And so what we want to talk about is just those little elementary pictures of things that we need to know. So the first thing that we start with is the undefined thing, and that is a point. So we know what points are. You can plot these things on a coordinate plane, right? You can do lots of different things with points, but points are undefined. And that's because we don't really know their size, okay? We can just say that it's a point. Here's a dot, right? Point. If we're naming a point, we would call it point A or point B or point C. And so a point is a fundamental part of geometry because without them, we wouldn't be able to make shapes and different things like that. All right, we're going to move up the ladder here. So we also have lines, right? And lines are these things, right, with arrows on the end of them, signifying that they go on forever, right? So they always go on and on and on and on and on, okay? But they're made up of points. And at least two of those points will make a line. But how many points are on a line? Well, that's infinite. So we can look at a line and we can notice that there are 2 points right now specifically on there, right? But in reality, there's tons of points, and it's an infinite amount of them. So there is an infinite amount of points on this line. If we wanted to name this line, we would call it line AB. All right. We could also call it line BA, and that would still be okay. We can go back and forth with that. And that means the same thing. And if you look, we put a line on top of it when we name it. All right, the next thing I want to talk about was segments. Segments are just parts of lines, right? So if I just wanted to look at segment AB, that would be from here to here, right? And that now is just a part of a line. It's not the whole line, it's just a piece of it. And so if we were labeling this thing, we would call it segment AB, okay? Now, how many points are on that segment? Well, there's more than just 2. There's an infinite amount of points as well. Except, wouldn't you think that this line is bigger than this segment? And I would say yeah, because the line goes on forever. So there's an infinite amount of points on segment AB. There's an infinite amount of points on line AB. But line AB is bigger than segment AB. So you're telling me that there's some infinities are bigger than others, and that's really the case here, because points are undefined, so we don't know their size, so we just know that, hey, there's an infinite amount there. And so there is an infinite amount of points on AB. We are just signifying as the endpoints A and B what its name actually is. All right, we also have rays, okay, and those aren't Ray Charles, it's rays, okay, and rays are starting from an endpoint and going on forward through another point or many points. And so these are things like your lights on a car. Those are rays, okay? They signify rays. So sun rays, right? It's things that start at a point and go on and on forever. So if I label this ray, I have to label it by its endpoint. So it's okay to put ray AB, but it is not okay to say ray BA, because that signifies going from B to A, and that's not what's happening. It starts at the endpoint and goes forward. If you look at segment AB, we can also call that segment BA, and that's okay, because it does have 2 endpoints. But we cannot do that with rays. So we have to make sure we know that. And we also have planes. And planes are just basically any 3 points that can form a plane. And those things are called non-collinear points, which we're going to discuss here in a second. So planes are just these shapes that are formed by non-intersecting points. So things like, that's a plane, right? And we can call that a triangle, but it's also a plane. Okay? So planes are the most common plane that you'll see is the coordinate plane, right? So this is a coordinate plane because it's forming points of space, right? And so you can look at all of this and it's a plane, right? The board that I'm writing on, it's a plane. So any flat space would be a plane. Two-dimensional, right? So these are two dimensionals. These are all one-dimensional objects because they're only going one direction, right? So we have two-dimensional objects, we have one-dimensional objects, then we have our point, okay, which is 0 dimension because we don't have it's undefined, right? We also have three-dimensional figures, right? And three-dimensional figures are your things like cubes and cylinders and things like that. But for right now, I just wanted to kind of look at these. These are our main shapes, right? And our main little things. So if we want to name a plane, we always name it using 3 letters. So I don't have a symbol for plane, so we just say plane, and we could say like ABC. So that's how we label planes. If there's more than 3 points that are making a plane, so let's say there's 5, we would just label it in order. So for example, if I drew, let's just do a 4-sided shape. We only need to label it in order going around the figure. So whatever point you start with and you decide to go around the figure with, you cannot jump around. So let me show you. So if I want to label this plane, I would label it with 3 letters. I don't need to label all 4. It's okay to say plane A, B, D because I went A, B, D. I can't go A, B, C because that jumps the point and it skips point D, and we don't want to do that. So it's okay to say that. It's also okay to say like plane CAB or plane BDC. But it is not okay to say plane ACB because I cannot skip that point that's in there. You can label all 4, but normally people will only label 3 points to determine a plane, okay? Because only 3 do. All right, so I just wanted to define a couple things too for you, and that is collinear and non-collinear, coplanar, and non-coplanar. All right, so if I see the word collinear, collinear means points that lie on the same plane, or I'm sorry, same line. They're points that lie on the same line. Because see, I see the root word here, line. So collinear means points that are lying on the same line. Non-collinear would be points that are not on the same line. So in other words, if they're points that lie on the same line, it would be like, can I draw a line through those? Yes. Therefore, they are collinear. But if I have points that are not on the same line, see, I can't draw a line through those. And so those are known as non-collinear or coplanar. Because coplanar points are points that form a plane. And the ones that do that are non-collinear points. They can't be forming a line, they form a plane. So these are points that lie on the same plane. So those are points that lie on the same plane. And if you look here, 3 non-collinear points determine a plane. Okay? So let's write that here. 3 non-collinear points determine a plane, which means they just make one. Therefore, if they're non-coplanar, then, well, they don't lie on the same plane. Okay, those are important terms because you're going to use them a lot here within geometry, the terms collinear, non-collinear, coplanar, and non-coplanar. All right, toodaloo.